Come back on the stage after a couple of wonderful, intense, and very content-wise filled hours. I hope you have enjoyed all the sessions as much as I did. And here I have with me Belinda Gibbons and Ishwar Haritas to sort of wrap up the day. And maybe I will just I invite you, Belinda, first to comment on where you were and some of the reflections that you had. And maybe I would say needless to introduce yourself, but then again, please do.
Thanks, Mede. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, morning, evening. Us from. Thank you for hopping on to our session today. So I'm Belinda Gibbons, and I am an academic at the Sydney Business School, University of Wollongong, and I am the PRME chapter chair for the Australia and New Zealand Amazing Prime chapter, and also a recently appointed member of the Prime board, which is really exciting. I attended in the student session, which was just amazing, and I really encourage you, when the recordings do come out in whatever way they come out, to have a listen to that. I think the students really resonated with Srinivasa's comments about rethinking. They use that term a lot, and empathy and experimentation. The students were treating COVID as like a dress rehearsal for the way that they will need to live and make decisions in their lives in the future. And they were really looking closer to home in terms of racial discrimination and gender equality, and questioning how that's playing out in their classrooms and the discussions that they're having. And they particularly talked about, you know, when there's a lot of male guest speakers in the classroom, not necessarily female, and colour of guest speakers. So yeah, that was really quite interesting that and wonderful that we're starting to have these discussions. Their return on investment, but more they were asking what makes study meaningful for them and what is their story and who are they. Really deep and meaningful questions at this time, but they were so positive. There was a couple of lovely quotes that I'd love to share. They said, "It's time to innovate, not time to learn about it, just time to do it." We should have learned about it before. We need to do it now. We need to have incubators at universities and experimentation labs and places for them to play and learn and fail, and blended learning as a lifestyle, not just at university, which was nice. Also, one last thing that I want to leave you with is a lot of discussions around that university is probably a little bit late to be learning some of these theories. University is about applying theories and the practical application of those, and working with industry and in the classroom in that risk-free environment, and the discussion around moving some of these topics into earlier education and what is our role in that, and working with our communities. So some really good discussions there.
Oh, thank you very much, Belinda, for bringing these reflections into the shared room here. Ishwar Haritas, you were in another space.
Wonderful. So hello, everybody. My name is Ishwar Haritas. Just a very quick introduction as well. So I work at the TFI Management Institute in Manipal in India. So I head and coordinate all the sustainability related activities here at our school, and I also head the Center for Inclusive Growth and Competitiveness. So thank you again, and Belinda, congratulations on the appointment on the board. Right. So the two sessions that I was following were the stakeholder panels. I should first of all say that the quality of conversation was very high. So there were so many things that that were so interesting. Of course, I was also toggling between the two parallel sessions, so I've obviously lost out on some of the stuff when I was looking at the other one. Vishwa, so the executive director of KPMG India, so he was talking about. He said students today are much more connected than we used to be, or students used to be in the past. The second thing he talked about was that we have to accept that there is a duality of reality, that contradictions are inherent, and this is something that we have to learn to tolerate and deal with, and this is a skill that students need. He emphasized the need for empathy But he also really, placed emphasis on the need to be able to measure these soft skills. So we understand that, that students need these soft skills, but how do we really know? How do we really know that a person has actually, developed a certain level of empathy, respect for diversity, for instance, or tolerance? So how do we really know that? So he put the question out there to us educators to figure out, so when we talk about these skills, how do we measure? Jamil again had several very interesting things to say. He again said that we know what the skills are which are required, but he said there is a certain acceleration. We've known for a while, but now the thing is that it's become, the need is now, right? So it's not something that's going to be the future, so we need to do it now. And he said we have to move from diversity to equity. He said it's no longer enough to simply know that there is diversity and that we tolerate and respect and so on, but that we have to make equity happen. We have to make those opportunities available to everybody, and right now. Then he also and then Leslie, she spoke about how education should be value driven, and she also placed a lot of emphasis on experiential learning. She talked about how she has herself run projects and courses and so on, which were outdoors in the wilderness in New Zealand and so on. And she said that sort of learning can actually affect hearts. She made this point, that it has to, people have to experience to internalize, right? Which I thought was very interesting. Then Pari Jayashree also made several very interesting points. She also said that at university it's already a little bit late in terms of imbibing these values and so on. So we have to start talking about how this can be done early on, right? And this is this point that some other speakers made. She talked about how traditionally we've had, our mental model has been rational and objective, and that we have to move from that to empathy. And she says the new thinking and empathy is at the heart of it. And she said our responses have to be more amygdala driven rather than cortex driven, right? And she also made the point that it's not easy to do this, but this is something that we have to cultivate and somehow also help our students to do that. She also spoke about mechanisms that are required to fail early and fail quick. She said also that students need to have a higher tolerance of ambiguity, and she talked about how it's necessary to align curriculum with the SDGs. In the other panel, Rashwin, he was saying how he said it's difficult to say how the future is going to shape up. And now we have the health crisis, and then we'll have the crisis in the economy, and so on. But he said it has to be, we have to teach our students, and companies need to fall back on trust and agility. That we have to be able to trust our people to respond differently, right, to these dynamic situations, right? And he talked about interdisciplinary skills. And also the importance of learning to learn is something that he made a point of. Kamal Singh, who's the executive director of Global Compact India, he made a very interesting point. He said how the new education policy in India, which will be announced at some point soon, is talking about how the SDGs and sustainability will become part of core curriculum already from the school level, from primary school level. So this sort of connected to what Jayashree was talking about and Vishwa was talking about before. So I think it'll be very interesting when we have the recordings and when we put all of these together. Then I think there are several things which happened in different places where I think there are questions and possibly also answers from within the different sessions. So I'll stop there.
No, thank you very much. No, thank you very much, Haritas, for these very good observations in your session, in your panel that have, I think. And I just for all of you listening in here, we've recorded everything here, so that will be available for everyone to. Sorry, there's a bit of a noise out here. That will be that would be available for everyone. So we have all these sessions. So actually what we're producing right now is a film. So that will be put available on the Prime website for everyone to watch and to dive in, because we can't be in all sessions at the same time. So we have this privilege that we can actually watch at some late evening or some early morning, whenever it suits us, get into or get back to these discussions. I was in the Dean's Dialogue, and I have to say I was also felt very privileged to be in that dialogue. So we had 4 high-level deans participating in the dialogue from Australia, Philippines, Malaysia, and India, and there was a sort of head-on discussion about the new anxieties that the whole sort of online world has brought about, but also a great appreciation of in 3 days we have accomplished what we couldn't do in 3 years, basically taking everyone online. There was also a careful discussion about the silent systemic racial injustice that is also happening in higher education. And the question is to what extent we are dealing with it, to what extent we are taking this serious, to what extent it has become so taken for granted that we do not notice it. And right now, of course, in the current context of the world, there is a new opportunity here to again rethink our policies and our processes for having a dialogue and a debate about when does these unconscious biases, the prejudices happen, and how can we make our students and our colleagues and our deans aware of this, and to become more, you could say, racially literate. We had a discussion about the values and the change needed in the values and the attitudes of not just students, because they get it, but it's more the staff perhaps that we need to sort of think about what are those values and attitudes that we need to adjust, and that we need to sort of somehow think about how they better adapt to the changing world. And I really sort of echo also, Belinda, what you said and what Ishwar said about the appreciation of ambiguity, the appreciation of contradictions, as you put it, Ishwar. So I think again, if I sort of think 15 years back, this was not the way we talked about a business school or management education, ambiguities. No, it was more about strategy, and you go from X to Y, and there's 5 boxes you have to go through, and then you'll get there. So right now there's another sort of way of thinking about, maybe we have a plan and we have 5 boxes and we have some arrows going in one direction, but maybe some of these arrows also point back, and maybe there are iterations as we go along, and maybe we will not land exactly where we plan to be, but we will be somewhere else that will perhaps even better fit the situation. That appreciation, I still see that gradually emerging in our textbooks. But we all know the textbooks don't change so rapidly as they perhaps should. So there is also a need for new pedagogies. And of course that comes for all of us now with this new virtual world that we are all entering in many different ways. So that was part of our discussion, and again, the sort of the inclusivity, giving the underprivileged an education, was also very emphasized in the Dean's Dialogue, and I think that's very interesting. The sort of the learning from the other perspectives, what both you, Belinda, and Ishwar called the empathy that was discussed. Again, a new language that wasn't there 15 years ago. Indeed, is entering our responsible management education. And empathy, that is one important word, but then there's a way of, as you said also, how do we measure this? I know in OECD they're working with how to measure creativity to put in the PISA agreement, and I think that they're working very seriously with it because they want to push creativity in public schools. So of course we can also measure empathy and inclusivity, and so it's not easy. You don't want just one full number, but to carefully rethink how do we actually account for that we have made an impact on our students and help them in that direction is very, very important. So I think that is some of the debate that I will some of the reflections from the debate I was engaging in that I would like to bring to the plenary here. And I think that there's one thing that two lessons that I want to bring on. That's the co-anything, co-creation, co-consulting, co-developing, co-constructing. I think that is a permeating vocabulary that I have heard in session 1, and now today it's session 2, and I'm sure I will be in session 3 later on in some hours at the Prime Global Forum. So I will invite you for Belinda and Isha. You have sort of been the wonderful, together with John and your team, the wonderful organizers of these 2.5 hours from the Eastern Hemisphere, and sort of bridging between the first session and the third session. We have the middle session here. So I will give the word back to you, Belinda and Ishwar, to conclude today.
Do you want to go first, Ishwar?
Sure. So Mette, first of all, I think it was, when we started talking about this a couple of months ago, and then we said we should have another session. I'm so happy that from the idea and now to actually having realized it and looking at how and the quality of the conversation. This is something that I'm really taking away, and I'm so happy that we did this. And this is again something that you and Nikolai have talked about before, that we should continue to do this, that this dialogue has to become continuous, and that, say, possibly every couple of months or something, that we are able to bring people together. And I was mentioning this to Nikolai as well, this kind of sort of decentral empowering, so then we are able to, you're at the secretariat, you're at the heart, and we are able to then, sort of replicate and multiply the power of the secretariat. And the worldwide movement that PRME is and should become, right? And to me, of course, I'm from the global South, and I keep thinking, how do I bring in more people from my region, from South Asia, from Africa? I have worked 10 years in Africa, so and when I see that we don't have a lot of representation from Africa, and this is something that we have to correct. Again, Central Asia. And possibly from the Pacific Islands and so on, right? So like some of our panelists were saying, so this is by default, we have to be inclusive, right? And it's no longer about thinking about how, it has to happen right now. And this is the decade of action. So more and more, if we can do more of this, if we can bring in, more people from the different regions and listen and hear and take it all back into our program itself. As related to sustainability, of course, and then also strengthen our connection to the Global Compact within the regions globally. But I'm very hopeful. I'd like to take a very quick minute to thank my director, Madhu. He's a visionary. He acts very quickly, and that really helps, because there hasn't been a single thing till now where I've gone up to him and I said, Madhu, I'd like to do this. He's never said a no to me. And this is very important, to have senior management who's backing you and is behind you. And again, I congratulate you, Mette. I think it's fantastic that you're heading PRME. We have a super board now. We were looking at the constitution of that yesterday. It is fantastic. Also having Ms. Ojiambo at the head of the Global Compact, from Kenya, it's fabulous. I think it's a great time, both for PRME and the Global Compact, and that we don't have a choice. So let's get the job done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isha. I just want to thank EP and John and Priya for finding a common time zone when we could meet and then discuss and finding these amazing speakers that we had today. I think for me, we're a great distance from the UN head office, and sometimes it feels like a very great distance. But this forum has been a way for us to collaborate, and has enabled us to feel, me, I guess, if I speak on behalf of me, to feel closer than we ever have before. And I think our region, our universities have so much to share, and moving forward, this is such a great way for us to share it. So thank you for the opportunity.
But thank you, and thank you for joining with such passion and in so short time pulling it all together, and also for the encouragement to think about how we can continue to do this. Now we're all getting so tech savvy, to our own surprises perhaps. Thank you, Belinda. Thank you, Ishra. And thank you, everyone out there who's been joining us and who are still there. I can see there's a great number of you who are still hanging on out there. I'm very, very pleased to see that dedication. So thank you for now, and tune in a few hours to the third session if you don't have to sleep at that time or have some other important. Thank you so much.
Thank you.